everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be making a tote bag. I've been wanting to make a tote bag for a pretty long time now, and I have a lot of scrap fabric from my previous projects. So I was thinking I could make kind of a patchwork quilted tote bag. All you're going to need is some scrap fabric and some batting or stuffing in my case, because that works as well. And yeah, I'm so excited to begin. First, I began by making a template of a square that was 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters. Then I used that template to cut out a bunch of squares from all the scrap fabric I have. I have so much scrap fabric from so many previous projects, and right now I'm trying to not buy any more fabric and try to make more things out of the scraps I have, because as this project taught me, you can make so many cool things out of just little pieces of fabric. I did think through how I wanted all the different fabrics to be arranged and ended up cutting out 2 of each kind of fabric per side, so 4 in total, with 3 out of the greens, so 6 greens in total. The vibe I was going for was a pink bag with green accents. And in here I also cut out the handles out of the green fabric. And yeah, I think it was just 4 inches by 20 inches. And I cut 2 of those. Some of the fabric I used was sheer, so I just put the lining underneath and basted the perimeter of the shape. I recommend cutting the sheer fabric a little bit bigger than it's supposed to be and the lining being the exact size it's supposed to be, because it's a lot easier to trim it to size after it's been basted on. I laid out how I wanted all my pieces to look together and pinned the rows together so I could sew them up. And after sewing them together, I made sure to iron the seam allowances open. Now that I had my 3 rows like this, I laid them out and pinned them together, making sure all the seams match up so that it looks like a grid. And here I just repeated the same thing I did last time by sewing them right sides together and then ironing the seam allowances open. And this is what it looks like when that was all done, and I made another one the same exact way so that I can use it for the other side of the bag. But then I realized that I wanted it a little bit bigger, so I added another row to make it the 4x4 instead of a 3x4. And to give it that quilty look, I took some old fabric, in my case just an old bedsheet, and cut out the piece that was a bit bigger than the 4x4 I just made and basted all around the edges, leaving a little opening on one side. If you're using batting, you can just sew the batting on at this step and skip everything I'm doing here. And this is what that looks like. Here you can see that the white sheet is on the back and there's a little opening on the side. I also used the pin to mark the top of the bag just so I know which side is right side up. Then I cut out the square out of each of the bottom corners. I believe I made them 4 centimeters by 4 centimeters. I forgot, it could have been 4 or 5-ish centimeters, but something like that. The size of this square will just determine the width of your bag. And I basted that corner so that the white fabric wouldn't come undone. And then I cut it out with my scissors. Then I used that as a template to cut out my lining. The lining was honestly exactly the same as the main pieces. It's just a rectangle with like a square. Oh yeah, and then here I also made a little pocket to go in the lining. It's just a rectangular piece that I sewed right sides together, flipped right sides out, and then sewed on the center of one of my lining pieces. And then I also added my little name tag too. Yeah, the fabric looks kind of wet here, but that's just because my iron was leaking again. And then going back to the main fabrics, I used stuffing, which I have so much of, so I'm really glad this was a project that not only used my scrap fabric, but also my immense amount of stuffing. Yeah, but basically you're kind of stuffing it it looks like you're making a pillow, but you don't want it to be as fluffy as a pillow, because once you stuff it, you're going to sew the little opening shut, and then as if you are quilting, you're going to sew along all the lines of the grid of what all the squares made, so that it looks like puffy and quilty. And this is what it looked like when that step was done. I was really happy with how it was coming along. It was looking really cute and puffy. And now to actually construct and put this all together, I pinned up the bottom and the sides right sides together and sewed that up. And then to sew that little square in the corner closed, I'm going to just pull it apart like I'm doing, and then line up the seams and pin that together and just sew across. And that's basically it. It's pretty simple to make a tote bag actually. And once I turned it right side out, I could get the first glimpse of what the finished bag would look like, and I was really happy with how it was looking. I followed the same steps to sew the lining. Here you can see that there's the pocket and my name thing, and the one difference is that I left the bottom open so that in the end we can turn the whole bag right sides out. And then we can't forget the handle. For the handle, I did the same thing as I did many times for this project and basted the sheer one onto the lining. And then I folded the handle right sides together and sewed down the long side and flipped it right side out. And that basically completes the handle. And now all I had to do was pin it onto the main fabric, sew it a little bit so that it stays in place, and then put the right side of the lining together with the right side of the main bag, and then sew all around the rim of the bag. And then I used that opening in the bottom of the lining to flip it right side out, and then nicely fold that opening and sew it shut. And then the bag is basically finished. I really love how it turned out. I think it's so pretty and nice, and I can totally see myself getting so much use out of this. I actually liked it so much that I made another bag the very same way except bigger and from different fabrics, obviously. This one, I wanted it sturdier since it was bigger, so I lined it with canvas. But yeah, and this is more of a checkerboard style. I only used 2 kinds. But I'm so happy with how they turned out, and yeah. I think it was a very good use of my scrap fabrics, and I'm so excited to make many more fun projects. So if you want to join me, make sure you click that subscribe button, hit that like button, and that notification button. Bye!